Good evening. How are we doing? There wasn't supposed to be a hush over the crowd that fast, right? There's still plenty of time to keep chatting. Good evening. Welcome to the Concord Band's Spring Pops, maybe. I don't know with the weather this morning, if anybody saw that, so I don't know if we can call this the Spring Pops, but we will be celebrating Concord's 250th anniversary celebration here, and obviously all of the activities that are leading up to next week as well. A couple of quick kind of housekeeping announcements. Please silence all of those electronic devices, cell phones, pagers, beepers. They didn't exist in the colonial and revolutionary times, so we will attempt to suppress them here. Also want to remind you to take note of the emergency exits. We have two behind most of the audience here below the drama stage, as well as two right here off of the music stage, and there is an accessible exit right here off of this side as well. And please, while the band has come to play feverishly, and we will be smoking tonight, you are not allowed to smoke in the building. Please, this is a smoke-free building, so would ask you to please refrain from doing that or step outside as well. A little bit about tonight. As I said, we are celebrating our Spring Pops concert and celebrating the 250th anniversary celebration. Tonight's concert celebrates some really interesting things, a musical journey where history, heroism, and imagination come to life. You're going to hear what I think can be considered echoes of both liberty and legend as we blend tonight's program and you experience both the spirit of revolution, the pulse of cinematic and video gaming adventures, and the enduring legacy of freedom and the power through wind ensemble and concert band music. From the early sparks of the American independence to the digital epics of modern storytelling, each piece you're going to hear tonight reflects a chapter in that history. Some of it's grounded in fact, as you'll see with our tributes to the fight for American independence, and others are grounded in fantasy, which you'll hear tonight in our cinematic music as well as the video game music that we're going to cover. But all of it is united by a sense of courage, by a sense of creativity and cultural renaissance. Whether they're stirring calls of the colonial renaissance or these epic gaming themed space age guardians, we hope the performance really connects for you to the present and is bold, fun, and in very interesting ways. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our first piece, and then I will get out of the way. We will be performing Concord by Claire Grundman. Very fitting piece, given where we are. It's a stirring tribute to the historic town of, you guessed it, Concord. Claire Grundman's Concord captures the spirit of early American patriotism and heritage. It uses very familiar Revolutionary era tunes and traditional harmonies and paints a really vivid musical portrait of the region's significance. It blends folk styles, it blends stately brass, woodwind chorales, and that evolving courage of conviction with patriotism on the ground. A couple of fun, quick facts on this one. Concord, as you could guess, was commissioned in 1958 by the town of Concord itself to commemorate its rich historical legacy, which makes it not only a musical tribute, but a civic one as well, which is perfect to open our concert here. And Claire Grundman has composed and arranged so many masterful works for concert band. It's a privilege to play this one. He has a background in both music history and Broadway arranging, and has composed, as I said, some of the most amazing things in the 20th century for us. So with that, I will step aside. We're going to do some tuning here, and we're going to get right to it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage the musical director and conductor of the Concord Band, James "Jim" Odell. Claire Grunman's Concord. Are we in the revolutionary spirit? Did that get us there? Absolutely, right? That fife and drum right at the very beginning. Our next piece stays really pretty close to home here. Northbridge Portrait, composed by Stephen Bulla, is a reflective and noble work paying homage to the North Bridge in Concord, site of the famous shot heard around the world. Buller's composition is lyrical and reverent. It uses flowing melodies and poignant harmonies to honor the lives lost and the ideals defended in the American Revolution. The piece opens with a very gentle, almost hymn-like theme. It builds into a noble and stately fanfare. Its structure is meant to mimic the walk across the bridge itself, moving from calm reflection to a climactic moment of resolve and remembrance. It's ideal for educational, commemorative settings, and it offers a very emotional and historical depth of the reverence that it can convey. Quick fact about this, Stephen Bulla, the composer, served actually as the chief arranger for the President's own United States Marine Band, and he has written extensively for ceremonial and concert occasions. You'll feel that come out in this piece as well. And the piece is absolutely, as I said, inspired by the serene beauty of the actual North Bridge site. I'm sure all of us here have probably visited that at some point. If you haven't, it is absolutely beautiful. And it remains a place of contemplation and remembrance in the American historical memory for absolutely all of the importance that it brought there. So this is Stephen Bulla's North Bridge Portrait. Stephen Bulla's Northbridge Portrait. Was everybody able to pick out where the shot heard around the world was? All right, sort of towards the end of the piece there. We're going to move on to our next selection here, which is actually entitled Selections from 1776, composed by Sherman Edwards. 1776 is a Broadway musical. These selections bring to life the passionate debates and human dramas surrounding the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This arrangement that we're going to play for you features spirited melodies, heartfelt lyrics, and conveys the courage, humor, and the turmoil of the nation's founding moments. You'll hear highlights from this excerpts of Richard Henry Lee, the poignant Mama Look Sharp piece, and the very rousing Is Anybody There? The songs give voice to the founding fathers, not as distant figures, but as real people who were trying to grapple with the immense responsibility and personal conviction. Sherman Edwards, the composer, was actually a former history teacher, turned songwriter who also penned many hits for Elvis Presley and many other pop artists before writing the score for 1776. 1776 won the Tony Award for Best Musical in 1969 and remains one of the few Broadway shows to center entirely on the political process of American independence. It's actually also lauded by many pit orchestra musicians, those are the folks who play music for the Broadway show, because it has an actual 44-minute congressional debate scene in it where there is no music. And many have said they can get a lot of fun reading or catching up on their correspondence, or maybe if there's a way to get out of the pit, sneaking off for a beverage or two before coming back. So one of the many, many inside facts of that. This is Selections from 1776, composed by Sherman Edwards. It is a fantastic musical, so if you ever get the chance to see it, it is tremendous, funny as well. Before we come to the last piece in the opening act here for us, I just want to remind and welcome a couple of folks. To all the folks who are out there on the live stream right now, we are live streaming this concert as we do almost all of our concerts. I haven't not done one in a long while, so welcome to everybody who's out there on the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us remotely or wherever you are. We're so happy that we can bring this to you. And the reason why we're able to bring this type of connection to you is because of all of the patronage that you folks provide to us. So thank you very much to you for joining us in this concert, as well as all of the donations that we receive throughout the year. So yeah, it's coming. Here's my shameless plug for if there is any opportunity to donate to the Concord Band. We always appreciate that. There are opportunities outside. There are some QR codes that are out there, as well as for you folks who are out there on the live stream. If you look just below the screen where you might be watching us, there's a nice link out there as well for donation. We can do it virtually also. So thank you very much for that. During the intermission, you may have seen, but if you haven't, we have some wonderful refreshments that are out there. Please take some time, go out and enjoy for that. We also have a 50-50 raffle that's out there. A lot of you have participated already, but if you haven't gotten some tickets, 50-50 is super simple. Grab some tickets. At the end of that, we count up all of the money that's in there. Whatever that amount is, half of the money goes to the band, half of the money goes to the winner when we pull the ticket. So we have that available for you out there as well. So please join us. Our last piece in this first act is Concord and Lexington by composer George Wright Briggs. The original band work evokes the tension, the bravery, and the historic significance of the battles of Lexington and Concord. Seeing a theme here for our first act. Briggs uses the bold brass motifs, martial percussion, and stirring thematic developments to musically narrate the dawn of the American Revolution. The piece progresses through a very, very interesting musical arc. It reflects growing unrest, the outbreak of conflict, and the ultimate triumph of resolve. It is well suited for patriotic events and celebrations such as this, giving performers and audience alike a taste of courage displayed during America's first battle for freedom. Two quick fun facts on this. The piece was written for a regional commemorative performance in Massachusetts and has been performed many times during Patriots' Day celebrations, so it may sound familiar to you. And George Wright Briggs, Jr. is known for his educational compositions and thematic works, and they're often performed by many different ensembles, many different locations, and at many different levels as well. So here is Concord and Lexington by George Wright Briggs. Thank you all very much. Please enjoy the intermission. Please enjoy the refreshments that are out there, and we'll see you back in a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage, James Odell.
We're going to do just a little bit of improvisation before we start this, but it's not a plain improvisation. We're going to let one of our band members tell you a brief little story about the foundation of the hymn of Chester that this piece is based on. So, Bob, would you mind? Pass that back to Bob.
It's okay. Well, many years ago, I was a member of the Old South Church in Copley Square, a member of the brass section, and we would play preludes and postludes, particularly with a pipe organ. But every spring, the church members would go back to their original venue down on Washington Street, National Historic Building run by the National Park Services. And on this occasion, the minister of the church called me and said, "Would you have the hymn called Chester?" "Yes, I do." "Would you promise to play it for me right before the sermon?" "Okay." So we got there, and since there was no organ, the brass did everything. Prelude, postlude, all the hymns. And we played Chester. And the minister got up and he said, "The piece you just heard was written by a member of our congregation in the 1770s. His name was William Billings, and he wrote this piece called Chester, and it described breaking the bonds of tyranny. Well, to the British in 1775, that was treason. So they would station troops out every Sunday morning on Washington Street and wait for Billings to show up. Well, they were disappointed a number of times. He was also suspected of taking part in the Tea Party when they dumped the tea into Boston Harbor. At any rate, the minister says, on this particular morning, the window behind me from the alley opened up, and William Billings crawled through the window, led the congregation in the singing of Chester, and then departed out the window into the alley and escaped capture. Well, the British weren't very happy with that. So what they did, ultimate insult, they closed the church down and turned it into a stable for their horses. Oh, end of story. And as I promised our conductor, no nudity, no profanity.
Seeds of Revolution. Fantastic piece, no? All right, could you feel that crunch in that second movement, right? Or it never quite gets to a positive feeling as well. So, well, we thought after that, we probably have to change the mood up a little bit, right? Maybe depart from the traditional Americana here and transition into another portion of our program, which really focuses in on gaming themes. Our first piece, Video Games Live, Part 1, is a thrilling melody that comes from groundbreaking multimedia concerts. If you've never seen or heard of any of these things before, in the gaming world, there is a fantastic culture of bringing the music and the actual scenes of the game together in fantastic concert performances. And what we're going to play for you here is actually a great excerpt of one of those types of concerts. Video Games Themes Part 1, Video Games Live Part 1, features a sweeping orchestral treatment of iconic video game themes. They're performed oftentimes, as I said, live and in sync with the cinematic visuals. And it's a celebration of gaming as an art form, blending symphonic grandeur and nostalgia. So not just playing the game, right, as we watch our kids do it or whatnot, but actually the true art that's behind all of that. This medley typically includes music from epic franchises. You're going to hear music from the game Halo, from Castlevania, from Warcraft, and from Kingdom Hearts, among a few others that are interspersed. And they represent a very strong emotional range and narrative power of the video game soundtracks, designed to captivate both gamers, but also musical lovers. And that's the point. You don't have to be a gamer to enjoy this. This performance usually highlights how game scores have become a vital part of the contemporary musical culture. Video Games Live premiered in 2005, and it has since toured over 40 different countries, including symphonic gaming, bringing symphonic gaming to millions of folks around the world. The composer here, Marty O'Donnell, is best known for composing original music for the Halo series and the pioneering use of live orchestras and choirs in game soundtracks. So the next time you see someone playing a video game, think that there's a tremendous amount of art that goes into that as well, not just all the buttons that are being pushed there. And we hope to convey that to you in this particular selection here, Video Games Live, Part 1 by Marty O'Donnell. Video Games Live, Part 1. Jim, what do you think? Time to do a 50-50 raffle? What do you guys think? Time to do a 50-50 raffle? Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. All right, are we ready? So just stretch it out. That's what we'll do. Just stretch it out. Oh, that's yours. No. There we go. To the winner goes the spoils. Thank you so much for participating in the 50-50 raffle. The total gross that we took in there was $180. So to the winner will be $90. And it is time to draw the winning ticket. Shall we let the maestro do it? Absolutely. No, not me.
But if I had a ticket in here, that wouldn't work out well.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, I'll do it. Really good in here. All right, the first thing is going to be the color, and usually there's some groans that come from that. It is a red ticket. Oh. You didn't let me down. Thank you. Right on cue. It is a red ticket, and the number is 175173. 175173. Can I get a collaboration or corroboration on that? 175173. There we go. There's our winner. 173. Excellent. Congratulations. Yeah. I'll just grab the ticket there. Oh, there you have it. Are you a trustworthy individual? Do you have it? All right. There we go. There it is, 175173. Congratulations. I'm going to talk. Yeah, I'm going to talk. This gym and this gym have altitude differences, so we've got to bring this down a little bit. Folks, it gives me a great pleasure to come and spend a little bit of time with you up here on the podium with this great group performing this next piece, which sits once again in the gaming theme and gaming culture. This piece is entitled Epic Gaming Themes, very original, and it is by Paul Murtha. And I'll tell you a little bit about the particular piece. It features a number of different games that are posted in here. Assassin's Creed 3, Full Metal Alchemist, Skyrim, Naruto, and Civilization 4. How many people have heard of those games? All right, a couple of folks. There you go, a couple of folks. That's fantastic. 'Cause the point being, right, you don't necessarily, once again, have to know the games or whatnot to sit back and let the music wash over you, and that's really what we're always looking to do here. I will tell you a little bit about each one of them. So this particular arrangement is sort of built into kind of 5 stories or 5 vignettes. The first one, which is the opening main theme that you're going to hear, is from Assassin's Creed 3. And if you think we departed too far from our American Revolution kind of first part of the program, I will tell you that Assassin's Creed 3 is actually set during the American Revolution. So when you play the game, all of the visuals or whatnot are of the Boston Harbor and the Boston Tea Party and the American Revolution. And it evokes, this opening theme evokes a sense of mystery and danger as the assassins set out on their quest for redemption. The second vignette, entitled Bracha, which is translated to brothers, is actually a sad tale. It tells a sad tale of 2 brothers lamenting the loss of their mother and their quest to avenge her death through the game, Full Metal Alchemist. So you hear kind of this sad and lamenting movement in there. The third movement is titled Dragonborn. It's a stirring and percussive movement from the Elder Scrolls and the version Skyrim of that. And it tells the story of Marak, the protagonist, who's believed to be Dragonborn, which means they have the power of dragons. So think on this sort of vignette here, think Game of Thrones meets Pirates of the Caribbean. because that's kind of what you're going to hear. The fourth vignette is Sadness and Sorrow. It encapsulates the emotional journey of Naruto from the anime series and their loneliness and the tragic events and experiences of lost loved ones. And then the conclusion of the piece ends with Baba Yatu, Baba Yatu, which translated means Our Father, and that's from Civilization 4. Now this piece, originally composed as a video game theme, which we're going to hear it here, has actually since been performed by a tremendous number of orchestras and choirs around the world. It's a triumphant piece. It's complete with African rhythms, melodies, and evokes a happy end to the whole work. You may definitely hear some like-mindedness to The Lion King, the Pride Rock scenes of The Lion King that's there. But the really interesting piece of this is, though it's a section in this particular work, the Baba Yatu piece is actually a Grammy Award-winning video game soundtrack and video game piece. It was the very first nominated and the very first awarded Grammy for video game composition, and it went to the end of this particular piece. So I hope you enjoy these epic gaming themes. It has absolutely been a pleasure to work with the group in this capacity, and them tolerating my sort of interpretations of some of these songs and music here. So we hope you enjoy this and sit back and have fun. Epic Gaming Themes by Paul Murtha. As we approach the closing number of the concert, I wanted to make just a couple of acknowledgments. Talked about the live stream earlier, as well as all of the production that goes on to make this possible, and it truly is a group of folks who are lending their time and lending their expertise to make that happen. So wanted to just give a nod to each one of those. Truly, the wizard, Mr. Wizard, the man behind the curtain, the producer and director of our event here, Mr. Barry Muir. Our audio engineer, John Day, making all this blend and all of this work really, really well. John is up there. Our streaming director, Nikki McGahee. Our video advisor, Akadi Barstein. And some wonderful camera operators, John Fremer, Stephanie Gagnon, Shane Lyons, Knox Southard, and Abby Sexauer. One other quick reminder for us as we wrap up our April Pops concert, the Concord Band takes a residency up at the Fruitlands Museum. In the summer, we have 5 concerts on Wednesday evenings beginning at 7:15. And they begin on June 11th and carry through for 5 Wednesdays after. Weather permitting, but we always hope that the weather will cooperate with us. So please join us out there for our summer series. Play a whole collection and a variety of different music through each of those concerts that are there. Okay, our final piece of the evening is entitled Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll do this one off the cuff. Guardians of the Galaxy started as a 2014 American superhero film by the Marvel Corporation, not to be confused with the Avengers, though they do all show up together in a series of movies as we go along. Guardians of the Galaxy incorporates a whole series of songs from the 60s and 70s, pop songs that are interspersed throughout the whole movie and in this particular soundtrack. The soundtrack incorporates songs such as Hooked on a Feeling, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Cherry Bomb, and a host of others. And they are all Billboard chart-topping songs in their own right. The way it's interspersed into the film is that the main character, Quill, has a mixtape on a Walkman. And it's what he uses to remind himself of Earth and home and family, and all of those songs sort of evoke those memories for him in that aspect. As I said, it is a piece, this particular soundtrack, when it came out with the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, actually hit platinum on the Billboard charts. It was fantastically received, despite actually having no original music in it. It is all a collection of these pop tunes that everyone fell in love with and was kind of reinstituted to. So for that, we think it's a great way to close up the kind of video game and epic portion of our concert here with Guardians of the Galaxy. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on our concert here. We always really appreciate it. You're a fantastic audience. We love having you. And please come back, see us at Fruitlands, and definitely come back for our next season as well. Guardians of the Galaxy. Soundtrack from Guardians of the Galaxy. The Concord Band. Thank you all so much for coming out this evening, for spending the time with us, for enjoying the music. We really appreciate it. Come see us at Fruitlands beginning June 11th, and please come see us next season. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Everyone get home safe.